Sunday, July 24. Abraham in the Crucible. Read Genesis 22. Out of nowhere and without explanation, God suddenly calls Abraham to offer his own child as a burnt offering. Can you imagine how Abraham must have felt? It was a totally revolting idea that a holy God should request that he sacrifice his own son. Even if Abraham thought that this was acceptable, what about God's promises of an inheritance? Without his son, the promise would be gone. Why did God ask Abraham to offer this sacrifice? If God knows everything, what was the point? God's requests and its timing were not random. Indeed, it was calculated to exact the deepest possible anguish, for God had reserved his last, most trying test for Abraham until the burden of years was heavy upon him and he longed for rest. That's from Patriarchs and Prophets, page 147. Was this test of a mad God? Not at all. For the agony which he endured during the dark days of that fearful trial was permitted that he might understand from his own experience something of the greatness of the sacrifice made by the infinite God for man's redemption. Same book, page 154. This was just a test. God never intended for Abraham to kill his son. This highlights something very important about the way God sometimes works. God may ask us to do something that he never intends for us to complete. He may ask us to go somewhere he never intends for us to arrive at. What is important to God is not necessarily the end, but what we learn as we are reshaped by the process. Jesus may have been thinking about Abraham's experience when he said to the Jews, John 8:56, "Your father Abraham rejoiced at the thought of seeing my day. He saw it and was glad." Abraham could have missed out on this insight, dismissing the instructions as from Satan. The key to Abraham's surviving and learning through the whole process was knowing God's voice. How do you know the voice of God? How do you know when God is talking to you? What are the ways he communicates his will to you? From the book Ellen White Comments, the SDA Bible Commentary, Volume 1, page 1094, it says, Abraham's test was the most severe that could come to a human being. Had he failed under it, he would never have been registered as the father of the faithful. Had he deviated from God's command, the world would have lost an inspiring example of unquestioning faith and obedience. The lesson was given to shine down through the ages, that we may learn that there is nothing too precious to be given to God. It is when we look upon every gift as the Lord's to be used in his service that we secure the heavenly benediction. Give back to God your entrusted possession, and more will be entrusted to you. Keep your possessions to yourself, and you will receive no reward in this life, and will lose the reward of the life to come. From the book Testimonies for the Church, Volumes 4, page 524, it says, Just such faith and confidence as Abraham had the messengers of God need today. But many whom the Lord could use will not move onward, hearing and obeying the one voice above all others, The connection with kindred and friends, the former habits and associations, too often have so great an influence upon God's servants that he can give them but little instruction, can communicate to them but little knowledge of his purposes, and often, after a time, he sets them aside and calls others to their place, whom he proves and tests in the same manner. The Lord would do much more for his servants if they were wholly consecrated to him, esteeming his service above the ties of kindred and all other earthly associations. God bless.